I should have noticed the smell first. Not perfume, not another man's cologne. Nothing that dramatic. It was the absence of her lavender lotion, the one she'd used religiously for 8 years. The bathroom counter sat bare except for hotel miniatures. And that's when I knew something had fundamentally shifted in my marriage to Victoria Ashfordson. "You're being paranoid, Marcus?" she'd said that morning, her fingers dancing across her phone screen without looking up. "It's just a phase. Everyone gets tired of their products. But I'm a data analyst. I notice patterns. I catalog deviations. And my wife of 9 years had been deviating for exactly 43 days. We lived in Brookshire, Massachusetts, one of those New England towns where old money whispers instead of shouts. Victoria's family had whispered here for generations. The Ashfords owned half the commercial real estate downtown, and Victoria's father, Robert, ran the investment firm that managed it all. I'd grown up in Cleveland, the son of a postal worker and a teacher. When I met Victoria at MIT, I thought our different backgrounds made us interesting. Now, sitting at our granite kitchen island worth more than my childhood home, I wondered if they just made us incompatible. "I'm heading to the office early," Victoria announced, already halfway to the garage. She wore the navy suit I loved, but she'd paired it with heels I'd never seen. "Don't wait up. The Silverman merger is closing." "It's Saturday," I said. She paused, her hand on the doorframe. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across her face. "Exactly, which is why I need to be there." The garage door hummed closed, and I sat in the silence of our 4,000-square-foot house. Through the window, I could see our neighbor, Bill, washing his Lexus. His wife had left him 6 months ago. He told me over beers that he never saw it coming, that she'd just announced one day that she was done. He'd seemed so bewildered, so pathetically unaware. I wouldn't be Bill. My phone buzzed. A text from my college roommate. "Derek, lunch today? Claire's dragging me to some farmer's market after. Save me." I almost declined. I had work to catch up on, quarterly projections that were due Monday. But something about the empty house made me type, "Jimmy's Pub noon." Derek arrived 15 minutes late, as always, with the kind of easy smile that made strangers trust him immediately. He'd sold insurance for 10 years and looked exactly like someone who would sell you insurance. Warm, slightly rumpled, forgettable in the best way. "You look like shit," he said, sliding into the booth. "Thanks. No, seriously. When's the last time you slept?" He flagged down the waitress and ordered us both IPAs without asking. "Let me guess. Victoria's still doing the 80-hour weeks." I traced the water ring on the table. "It's not just that." "Okay." Derek leaned back, his expression shifting from friendly to focused. "Talk to me." So I did. I told him about the lotion, the new heels, the Saturday meetings. I told him about how she'd changed her phone password 3 weeks ago, claiming it was for work security. I told him about the way she'd started saying, "I love you," at the end of phone calls with a brightness that felt performed. "Marcus," Derek said carefully, "you know what this sounds like." "I know what it sounds like, but Victoria isn't." I stopped. What was I going to say? That Victoria wasn't the type? Everyone's the type, given the right circumstances. "Look, man, I'm not saying jump to conclusions. But maybe." He paused, choosing his words. "Maybe you should know for sure, before you drive yourself crazy." "You mean follow her?" "I mean protect yourself. If there's nothing going on, great. If there is..." He shrugged. "At least you're not blindsided." That night, Victoria came home at 11. I dozed off on the couch watching some Marvel movie, and I woke to the sound of her heels clicking on the hardwood. "Hey," I said, sitting up. "How'd it go?" "Exhausting." She dropped her bag by the door. Another new habit. She used to hang it on the hook. "I need a shower. Want company?" I tried to make it playful, the way we used to be. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm dead on my feet, babe. Rain check." I listened to the water run for 45 minutes. When she finally came out, wrapped in a towel with her hair in a turban, she found me in the bedroom doorway. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just missed you today." Something in her face softened, and for a moment, She looked like the girl I'd married. She crossed the room and kissed me, really kissed me the way she hadn't in weeks. "I miss you too," she whispered against my lips. "I'm sorry I've been so crazy with work. It'll calm down soon." We made love that night, and it felt almost normal. Almost. But afterward, when she thought I was asleep, I felt her reach for her phone, saw the blue light of the screen illuminate her face as she smiled at something. Sunday morning, Victoria announced she was meeting her mother for brunch. I decided to follow Derek's advice, though it felt absurd even as I did it. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then got in my Accord and drove toward the country club where her mother was a member. Victoria's Mercedes wasn't in the parking lot. My heart started pounding. I called the club. "I'm sorry to bother you," I said to whoever answered. "I'm supposed to meet my wife, Victoria Chen, but I'm running late. Is she still there?" "I'm sorry, sir. We don't have a reservation under that name today." I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, before I admitted to myself what I was doing. This was insane. I was acting like a paranoid psychopath. Victoria probably went somewhere else with her mother. I should just call her, ask her where they were. But I didn't. Instead, I drove home, feeling sick and stupid in equal measure. Victoria returned at 3, carrying a Nordstrom bag. "Found the perfect dress for the gala next month," she announced. "Want to see?" "Sure," I said. It was beautiful, emerald green, sophisticated, with a back that dipped low. "It's gorgeous," I told her honestly. "I knew you'd love it." She hung it carefully in her closet, and I noticed she'd reorganized everything. All her work clothes on the right, casual on the left. When had she done that? Monday morning, I went to work distracted. I'm a senior analyst at a fintech startup, the kind of place where people bring their dogs to work and meetings happen on beanbags. Normally, I loved it. Today, I stared at spreadsheets and saw nothing but Victoria's smile when she looked at her phone. Earth to Marcus. My manager, Nina, stood beside my desk. "You with us?" "Sorry. Just thinking through the model." "Aha." Nina was 40, twice divorced, and had a bullshit detector like a bloodhound. "Or you're having a crisis. Either way, take a walk." "You're no good to me," glazed over. I took the walk, circling the block 3 times. By the time I got back, I'd made a decision. I was going to talk to Victoria. Really talk to her. Ask her directly if something was going on. We were adults. We could have a conversation. That night, I came home to find her in the kitchen, actually cooking. Victoria hadn't cooked in years. We had a meal service, ate out, or I grilled. But there she was, stirring something on the stove, a glass of wine beside her. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "No occasion. Just felt like it." She smiled at me, and again, it was almost right. I realized I've been a terrible wife lately. All work, no us. So tonight, we're having a real dinner. No phones, no laptops. Just you and me. We ate spaghetti carbonara, her specialty from when we were dating, and talked about everything except what was wrong. She asked about my project at work. I asked about her parents. We laughed about a meme she'd seen. It was nice. It was awful. It was a performance, and we both knew it. After dinner, I almost chickened out. But then she started loading the dishwasher, and I saw her pause, her hand frozen over a plate, staring at nothing with an expression I couldn't read. "Victoria," I said, "we need to talk." She didn't turn around. About whatever's been going on with you." Now she turned. "What are you talking about? You're different. You've been different for weeks. And I need to know if there's something I should know." Her face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Then she laughed, actually laughed. "Oh my God, Marcus. Are you serious right now?" "I'm completely serious. You think I'm cheating on you." It wasn't a question. "I think something's going on." She set down the plate carefully. "You know what? Yes, something is going on. I've been working my ass off trying to make partner at the firm, dealing with my father breathing down my neck about living up to the Ashford name, managing a merger that's worth $40 million, and apparently, I also need to reassure my husband that I'm not screwing someone on the side." Her voice had risen with each word. "Is that what you want to hear?" You just what? Noticed I changed my lotion? Got new shoes? Jesus, Marcus. Maybe I just wanted something new. Maybe I'm allowed to evolve without you tracking every deviation like one of your datasets. She'd struck exactly where it hurt most. That's not fair. No, you know what's not fair? Coming home after a 16-hour day to have my husband interrogate me instead of support me. She grabbed her wine glass. I'm going to bed. I stood in the kitchen for a long time after she left, wondering if I just made a terrible mistake. The next few days passed in cold détente. Victoria left early, came home late, and spoke to me in the polite, distant tones you'd use with a stranger. I threw myself into work, but my mind kept circling back to that conversation. Had I been paranoid? Had I just damaged my marriage over nothing? Thursday evening, Victoria came home at 7, early for her lately. She found me on the back deck, nursing a beer. Hey, she said softly. Hey, she sat down beside me. I'm sorry. I overreacted the other night. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Let me finish. She took my hand. You were right. Something has been going on. Not what you think, but I need to tell you something. My heart stopped. Okay. My dad is stepping down from the firm. He wants me to take over as managing partner. She looked at me, and her eyes were wet. But there's a catch. He doesn't think I'm ready. He thinks I'm too soft, too female. She said the word like it tasted bad. So he's been testing me, throwing impossible deals at me, watching me scramble, waiting for me to fail so he can tell the board he was right. Victoria. And I've been killing myself trying to prove him wrong. Every late night, every weekend. It's all been about showing him I'm worthy of the name. But the stress. She wiped her eyes. I've been taking it out on you. And I'm sorry. I pulled her into a hug, feeling like the world's biggest asshole. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was embarrassed. Because I'm 36 years old and still trying to earn my daddy's approval like I'm 12. She laughed shakily. And because I knew you'd tell me to forget him, to do my own thing, and I couldn't hear that right now. We sat there as the sun set, and I felt the tension of the past weeks drain away. It all made sense now. The secrecy, the stress, the distance. It wasn't another man. It was the same old demon Victoria had been fighting her whole life. Robert Ashford's impossibly high standards. That weekend, we went to the Cape, rented a cottage, and reconnected. We ate lobster rolls and walked on the beach and had sex with the windows open. On Sunday night, driving back, Victoria was singing along to the radio, and I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Monday morning, I woke up feeling better than I had in weeks. I made coffee, kissed my sleeping wife, and headed to work whistling. At 10:30, my phone rang. Victoria's mother, Patricia. Marcus, dear. I hope I'm not interrupting. Not at all, Patricia. What's up? I'm calling about the gala next month. I need Victoria's dress size for the program printing, and she's not answering her phone. Do you happen to know? She's a 6, I think? Perfect. And while I have you, I wanted to thank you for convincing her to join me for brunch last Sunday. She seemed so relaxed afterward. The world tilted. Last Sunday. Yes, at the club. We had a lovely time, though the service was dreadfully slow. Tell her I'm still waiting for them to find my favorite server schedule, so we can request him next time. Right? Yeah. I'll tell her. I sat at my desk after we hung up, my coffee going cold beside me. Victoria hadn't been at brunch last Sunday. The club confirmed it. But now her mother was saying they'd been there together, that it had taken forever, that Victoria had seemed relaxed. One of them was lying. But why would Patricia lie about having brunch with her daughter? Unless Victoria had called her mother and asked her to cover. Unless Victoria had anticipated that I might check her story and had prepared an alibi. My hands were shaking. I pulled up our bank statements. We had separate accounts, but I had access to the joint one. The only charges from last Sunday were gas and groceries. No restaurants. I called Derek. I need your help, I said when he answered. And I need you not to judge me. 2 hours later, I met him in his office. He'd brought in his brother-in-law, Tony, who was a private investigator. Tony looked nothing like I'd expected. He was small, balding, wore wire-rimmed glasses and looked more like an accountant than a detective. "So," Tony said, pulling out a notebook, "you want surveillance on your wife. I want to know if she's lying to me." "They usually are," Tony said matter-of-factly. "Once they start lying, in my experience, by the time someone calls me, they already know the answer. They just need proof." "How much?" I asked. $2,000 for a week. I'll tail her, document where she goes, who she sees. Lot of people, they don't want the photos. But I include them anyway. Most find they need them after. I thought about Victoria singing in the car yesterday. I thought about her tears when she told me about her father. I thought about 9 years of marriage. "Do it," I said. For the next 4 days, I functioned on autopilot. At home, I smiled and kissed Victoria goodbye in the mornings. At work, I stared at code until Nina threatened to send me home. At night, I lay awake beside my wife and wondered what Tony was discovering. Friday afternoon, Tony called. "We need to meet." I left work early, claiming a dentist appointment, and drove to his office. He had a manila envelope on his desk. "So," he said, "good news and bad news." "Good news. She's not having an affair." Relief flooded through me. "What's the bad news?" "The bad news is she's doing something, and I can't figure out what." He pulled out photos. Tuesday, she left work at 9 p.m., drove to a house in Medford, stayed inside for 45 minutes, left. Wednesday, same house, 1 hour. Thursday, she went to a different location, commercial building in Cambridge. Met with the same 2 people as Tuesday and Wednesday. He spread out the photos. Victoria's Mercedes in various driveways. Victoria walking into buildings I didn't recognize. Victoria sitting in her car, talking on her phone, looking over her shoulder. "I ran the addresses," Tony continued. "First house is owned by a company called Meridian Holdings. Second location is leased by the same company. Meridian Holdings is a shell corporation registered in Delaware. Dead end." "What does that mean?" "It means someone doesn't want people knowing what they're doing. Could be anything: tax shelter, side business, drug front. But your wife is involved with something she's keeping very quiet." I stared at the photos. Victoria looked furtive in every shot, like she knew she was doing something wrong. "There's one more thing," Tony said. "The people she's meeting with?" I got partial plates on their cars. Ran them through my contacts. One came back to a tech startup in Cambridge. The other to a law firm in Boston. He paused. "Marcus, I think your wife might be embezzling." "That's insane." "Is it?" "She's under pressure from her father. She has access to company funds. She's meeting secretly with tech people and lawyers." He shrugged. "I've seen it before. Smart people convince themselves they're just borrowing, that they'll pay it back." I drove home in a daze. Embezzlement. Victoria. It seemed impossible. But then, 2 weeks ago, I would have said an affair was impossible. I found her in the kitchen, still in her work clothes, pouring wine. "Hey babe," she said. "Rough day." "You could say that." She studied my face. "What's wrong?" And that's when I decided. I was done with hints and suspicions and private investigators. I needed the truth, whatever it was. "Victoria," I said, "what is Meridian Holdings?" The wine glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. In the shocked silence that followed, I watched my wife's face cycle through fear, anger, calculation, and finally something like resignation. "How did you?" she started, then stopped. "You had me followed. You lied about Brunch. So you had me followed." Her voice was rising. "You invaded my privacy, you. You're embezzling from your father's firm." "I'm not embezzling," she shouted. "Jesus Christ, Marcus." "Then what are you doing?" She stared at me, breathing hard. Then she laughed, a harsh sound without humor. "You want to know? Fine. Let's talk. Let's really talk." She grabbed her purse and car keys. "Where are you going?" "Somewhere we can't be overheard." She looked at me coldly. "You coming or not?" I followed her to her Mercedes. She drove in silence, taking us north out of Brookshire. 20 minutes later, we pulled into the parking lot of one of the houses from Tony's photos. "Come on," she said, getting out. The house was ordinary, a modest colonial in a middle-class neighborhood. Victoria unlocked the door with her own key. Inside, it was mostly empty. A few pieces of furniture, some moving boxes. And on the dining room table, spread out like war plans, were documents. Financial statements, property deeds, incorporation papers. "I'm leaving," Victoria said quietly. "The firm, the family business, all of it." I stared at her. "What?" "I'm starting my own investment company, Meridian Holdings. I've been secretly meeting with backers, setting up the infrastructure, finding office space." She gestured to the documents. "This house is temporary. I needed somewhere to work without my father's people seeing." "Your father's people?" "He monitors everything, Marcus. Every email I send from the office, every phone call, every meeting. How do you think he tests me? He's watching constantly, waiting for me to step out of line, to show ambition beyond what he's willing to give me." Her voice was bitter. "So I had to do this off the grid. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew you'd try to talk me out of it." She turned to face me. "You'd say it was too risky, that I should just tough it out at the firm, that I was overreacting to my father's management style. And maybe you'd be right. But I'm drowning there, Marcus. Every day, he finds new ways to remind me that I'm only there because of my last name, not my abilities. I would have supported you. Would you?" She pulled out a folder from one of the boxes. "This is my business plan. I need $2 million in capital to launch. I have 1.2 saved, my trust fund, money I inherited from my grandmother. The rest I need to raise from investors. And once I leave, my father will make sure no one in Boston will back me. So I've been looking elsewhere, New York, Chicago, Silicon Valley. $2 million. Welcome to venture capital." She met my eyes. "I know what you're thinking. I'm crazy. I'm throwing away a partnership at a prestigious firm to strike out on my own with no guarantee of success. Actually, I was thinking you're brave." She blinked. "What?" "Victoria, I've watched you shrink yourself for years trying to fit your father's mold. If this is what you need to do to be happy, then I'm with you." I moved closer. "I just wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me." Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I couldn't risk it. If this fails, if I lose everything, I needed it to be my failure, not something I dragged you into. We're married. Your failures are my failures." "No, Marcus, they're not." She wiped her eyes. "Which brings me to the second thing I need to tell you." My stomach dropped. "What?" "If I do this, I'll probably lose my inheritance. My father will disown me. All the money he's been holding in trust, the real estate, the stock options, gone. We'll be living on your salary and whatever I can make, which might be nothing for the first few years." I looked around the empty house, at my wife standing in the ruins of her family legacy, and I understood. This wasn't about embezzlement or affairs. This was about freedom, about Victoria finally choosing herself over her father's expectations. "Okay," I said. "Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's do it." She stared at me. "You mean it?" "I mean it. We'll figure it out." She crossed the room and kissed me, and for the first time in months, it felt completely real. We spent the next hour going through her business plan. It was actually brilliant. She wanted to focus on mid-sized companies that traditional firms overlooked, bring them capital and expertise to scale. She had projections, market analysis, potential clients already lined up. "When do you tell your father?" I asked. "Monday. I'm giving 2 weeks' notice." "He's going to lose his mind." "I know." She smiled grimly. "But I'm done trying to earn something I'm never going to get." That weekend felt like a second honeymoon. We painted the house in Medford that would become her office. We ate takeout sitting on the floor surrounded by moving boxes. We made plans. Sunday night, Victoria was unusually quiet. "Second thoughts?" I asked. "No, just scared." "That's normal. Is it normal to be 36 and terrified of your father's reaction?" "Victoria, you're about to compete with him. Of course you're scared." She leaned into me. What if he's right? What if I'm not good enough? Then you'll learn and get better. That's how this works. Monday morning, I kissed her goodbye and told her I was proud of her. She drove off to deliver her resignation, and I went to work feeling lighter than I had in months. At 10:30, my phone rang. Victoria's father. Marcus. I need you to tell me what's going on with my daughter. Sir, I think that's between you and Victoria. She just resigned. No warning, no explanation. She's throwing away her career for some insane scheme. It's not insane. She has a solid plan. You knew about this? His voice was dangerous. You encouraged this? I support my wife. You're supporting her self-destruction. Without the firm, without the family name, she'll fail within a year. And when she does, where will you be? Living in some apartment, struggling to pay bills on your little analyst salary? If that's what it takes. You're a bigger fool than I thought. He hung up. Victoria came home at noon, looking shell-shocked. How'd it go? I asked. He fired me on the spot. Said if I was leaving anyway, I could leave immediately. Had security pack my office and escort me out. She was shaking. 36 years old, and my daddy had me walked out by security. I held her while she cried angry tears. He's trying to break you. He might succeed. He won't. But over the next week, I started to wonder if he might. Robert Ashford launched a campaign against his own daughter that was breathtaking in its cruelty. He called everyone in Boston's financial community and told them Victoria was unstable, unprofessional, not to be trusted. He had lawyers send cease and desist letters claiming she'd stolen proprietary information. He cut her off from every family resource. And then, on Friday, exactly 1 week after her resignation, Victoria's mother called. Marcus, dear, I need you to come to the house. Alone. I found Patricia in the living room of the Ashford mansion, a room I'd always found more intimidating than elegant. Sit, she said. I sat. My husband is going to destroy Victoria's reputation, Patricia said calmly. He's going to make sure she can't get funding, can't get clients, can't get respect. And he's going to bankrupt her attempting to defend herself against his lawsuits. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to offer you a way out. She pulled out papers from her purse. These are divorce papers. Sign them, walk away with your dignity intact, and I'll make sure you're taken care of. Quietly, of course. Robert can never know. I stared at her. You're asking me to divorce Victoria. I'm offering you an escape before you drown with her. Patricia's voice was almost kind. She's my daughter and I love her, but she's made her choice. You don't have to make the same one. Thanks for the offer, I said, standing. But I'm good. She smiled sadly. Your loyalty is admirable. Foolish, but admirable. I left the mansion and called Victoria to tell her about her mother's visit. She listened in silence. Marcus, she said finally. Maybe she's right. Don't. No, listen. This is only going to get worse. My father won't stop until he's humiliated me completely. And you don't deserve to be collateral damage. Victoria, go ahead, she said, and her voice had gone cold. Leave. I give you a week without me. What? Seriously, take a week. Go stay with Derek or your parents or wherever. Experience life without being tied to a social pariah from a vindictive family. Then decide if this is really what you want. This is insane. No, this is me giving you an out. Because once my father really gets started, there won't be any easy exits. She paused. 1 week, Marcus. If you're going to leave, better to do it now. That night, we had the worst fight of our marriage. She wanted me to walk away temporarily to protect myself. I wanted to stay and fight. She accused me of not understanding what I was signing up for. I accused her of not trusting that I could handle it. Finally, at midnight, exhausted and angry, I grabbed my keys and wallet. Fine, I said. You want me to leave? I'll leave. I threw my keys on the counter and walked out. I drove to Derek's house and slept on his couch, feeling like I'd just made either the best or worst decision of my life. The next morning, Saturday, Derek made coffee while I explained everything. So let me get this straight, he said. Your wife told you to leave to protect you, and you left because she told you to? When you put it like that, you two are perfect for each other. Both idiots. He handed me coffee. What's your plan? I don't know. She said a week. And then what? That's when my phone rang. Victoria. You need to get home, she said, her voice tight. Now. I broke every speed limit getting back to Brookshire. Victoria's Mercedes was in the driveway, along with her father's Bentley and 2 cars I didn't recognize. Inside I found chaos. Robert Ashford stood in our kitchen, red-faced and shouting. Patricia sat at the table, weeping. Victoria leaned against the counter, arms crossed, looking defiant and terrified in equal measure. And 2 men in suits, one I recognized as Victoria's father's lawyer, the other as our bank manager, stood near the door. Marcus, Robert rounded on me. Tell me what you did. What I did. The bank just called, Victoria said quietly. Someone emptied all of Meridian Holdings' accounts. Every penny. The money's gone. My blood went cold. What? $2 million, the bank manager said. Transferred out yesterday afternoon to an offshore account. The transaction was authorized using Mr. Chen's credentials. Everyone turned to look at me. I didn't. I started. Of course you did, Robert shouted. You saw an opportunity to steal from my daughter and you took it. Sir, I have no idea what you're talking about. The IP address traces back to your workplace, the lawyer said, consulting his phone. And the authorization came through your username and password. Victoria was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Marcus, please tell me you didn't. I swear to you I didn't touch that money. Then, how did someone access it using your credentials from your office? And suddenly, horribly, I understood. What day was this? I asked. Yesterday. Friday afternoon, between 2 and 4 p.m. I pulled out my phone and showed them my calendar. I wasn't at the office yesterday afternoon. I left at noon, drove here for a meeting with Patricia, and didn't go back. Patricia looked up sharply. That's true. He was here with me from 12:30 to 1:30. Then someone else accessed your computer, the bank manager said. Or, I said slowly, someone set me up. Don't be ridiculous, Robert snapped. But Victoria's face had gone pale. Oh my God. What? I asked. She pulled out her phone, fingers flying. The lawsuit threats, the calls to investors, the timing. She looked up at her father. You did this. I beg your pardon? You're the only one who knew about Meridian besides Marcus and me. And you're the only one with connections to make this happen. Hack Marcus's credentials, access the accounts, make it look like he stole the money. Her voice was rising. This is just another test, isn't it? Another way to prove I can't handle myself. Victoria, you're hysterical. Am I? She turned to the lawyer. Who hired you to be here today? Who called this meeting? The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Ashford thought it would be wise to have legal representation present when the allegations were made. Allegations you knew were coming because you orchestrated them. Victoria laughed, a wild sound. You couldn't just let me fail on my own. You had to sabotage me and frame my husband. That's a serious accusation, Patricia said quietly. Is it? Victoria turned to her mother. Did you know? When you offered Marcus the divorce papers yesterday, was that part of the plan? Get him to leave before Dad destroyed him. Patricia's silence was answer enough. I looked at Robert Ashford and saw nothing but cold calculation. He'd committed fraud, destroyed his daughter's business, and tried to frame me for it, all to prove a point. You're insane, I said. No, I'm thorough. Robert smiled thinly. Victoria needed to understand that leaving the family business would have consequences. This is merely the first. This is illegal, I said. Prove it. He gestured to the lawyer. I think you'll find the evidence points conclusively to Marcus. Unless, he turned to Victoria, unless you'd like to come back to the firm, resume your position, in which case, I'm sure we can make this unfortunate situation disappear. Victoria looked at her father, then at me, then back at her father. "No," she said. "No, no. I'd rather lose everything than work for a man who would do this to his own child." She straightened. "And we're going to prove you did it. Good luck with that." Robert headed for the door, his lawyer following. "You have 48 hours before I file charges against Marcus. I suggest you use them wisely." After they left, the three of us sat in stunned silence. "I'm so sorry," Patricia finally said. "I didn't know he would go this far." "Didn't you?" Victoria's voice was hollow. "You've watched him destroy people my entire life. Not his own daughter. Why not?" "I stopped being his daughter the moment I disagreed with him." Patricia stood, gathering her purse. "For what it's worth, I'll testify to Marcus's alibi. It won't be enough, but it's something." She paused at the door. "And Victoria? Your grandmother would be proud of you." After she left, Victoria and I sat across from each other at the kitchen table. "I'm sorry," she said. "I should never have told you to leave. I'm sorry I actually left. What are we going to do?" Her voice cracked. "Even if we prove you're innocent, the money's gone. Meridian is dead before it even started. And my father's lawyers will bury us." I thought about the past weeks. The suspicions, the following, the lies and half-truths. And then I thought about something else. "What was your grandmother's name?" I asked. "What? Your grandmother?" Patricia mentioned her. "What was her name?" "Eleanor Ashford. She died 5 years ago." "Why?" I pulled out my laptop and started searching. "Because your mother said she'd be proud. And people don't say things like that unless there's a reason." 20 minutes later, I found it. Eleanor Ashford's will, publicly filed. She'd left Victoria a substantial trust fund. But there was a clause I'd never noticed before. If Victoria left the family business to start her own company, she'd receive an additional inheritance held in a separate trust. $3 million. "Did you know about this?" I asked, showing Victoria the document. She scanned it, her eyes widening. "No. Dad handled all the estate stuff. He never mentioned." She stopped. "Because he didn't want me to know. He knew if I had this money, I could actually compete with him." "So where is it?" "It should be held by the estate attorney, Gerald Whitmore." She grabbed her phone. Gerald Whitmore met us at his office Sunday morning, looking confused and concerned. When Victoria explained what had happened, his confusion turned to anger. "Your father told me you decided not to pursue your own venture," he said. "He told me to hold the funds indefinitely." "That's not what the will says," I pointed out. "It says the funds release automatically upon Victoria leaving the firm to start a company." "Which she did." "You're right." Gerald pulled out files. "Eleanor was very specific. She knew Robert would try to control Victoria forever. This was her way of giving you freedom." By Monday morning, we had $3 million in a new account Robert couldn't touch. By Monday afternoon, we'd hired a forensic accountant and a criminal attorney. By Tuesday, we had proof. The hack had originated from a server farm Robert's company used. The offshore account belonged to a shell corporation he controlled. And the timing, just hours after I'd left the house, when he knew I had an alibi he could challenge, was too convenient. Our lawyer called him Wednesday morning. "You have 24 hours to return the stolen funds and drop all allegations against Marcus Chen, or we file criminal charges and a civil lawsuit." Thursday morning, the $2 million was back in Meridian's accounts. Robert's lawyer issued a statement about a misunderstanding. No apology, no admission of guilt, but the threat was gone. "He's going to keep coming after us," Victoria said that night. "This isn't over." "Let him come," I said. "We'll be ready." But Robert didn't come. Not directly. Instead, over the next 6 months, we watched him slowly self-destruct. Without Victoria to test, to push, to use as a proxy for his own ambitions, he seemed to lose focus. The firm made several bad investments. Clients started leaving. Rumors spread about his erratic behavior, his paranoia, his treatment of his own daughter. And Meridian? We thrived. Victoria turned out to be brilliant at what she did without her father's shadow. Her first deal was a success. Then her second. By the end of the year, She had 4 companies in her portfolio and a waiting list of potential clients. We moved out of Brookshire to Cambridge, into a condo we could actually afford. We sold the 4,000-square-foot house with its granite counters and its ghosts. We started over. 6 months after the confrontation, I came home to find Victoria on the couch, staring at her phone. "What's wrong?" I asked. "My father had a heart attack. He's in the hospital." We drove to Brookshire General in silence. In the ICU waiting room, we found Patricia, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "How is he?" Victoria asked. "Stable. For now." Patricia looked at her daughter. "He's been asking for you." Victoria stiffened. "I bet he has." "Not like that. He's..." Patricia's voice broke. "He's scared, Victoria. And he wants to see his daughter." We found Robert in a private room, hooked up to machines that beeped steadily. He looked old, diminished, nothing like the titan who'd stood in our kitchen making threats. "Victoria," he said, his voice weak. "Dad, I'm sorry." The words seemed to cost him. "I was wrong. About everything. You almost destroyed my marriage. You stole from me. You tried to frame my husband." "I know." He closed his eyes. "I thought I was protecting you. From failure. From making mistakes. But I was really just trying to control you because I was afraid of what you'd become without me." He opened his eyes, looking at her. "You're better than me, Victoria. You always have been. And that terrified me." Victoria stood frozen, and I saw her struggling. 9 years of resentment warring with 36 years of daughterhood. "I'm not going to forgive you overnight," she finally said. "But I'll visit. We can talk. That's more than I deserve." We left the hospital as the sun was setting. On the drive home, Victoria was quiet. "You okay?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe." She looked at me. "He's right, you know. I am better than him. And the only reason I know that is because he pushed me so hard I had to become someone else entirely." She laughed shakily. "Is that gratitude or trauma?" "Probably both." "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Anything. That week I told you to leave. Why did you really go?" "I thought about it. Because I trusted you. You said you needed space to figure things out, so I gave it to you, even though it killed me. And when you came back, when everyone was accusing you, you didn't run." "Of course not. You're my wife." "See, that's the thing." She took my hand. "My father never trusted anyone. Not my mother, not me, not his partners. He spent his whole life trying to control everything because he couldn't trust. And it made him miserable." "Where are you going with this?" "I'm going with I married the right person. Someone who trusts me even when I'm lying about meetings. Someone who stays even when things get ugly. Someone who isn't intimidated by my family or my money or my ambitions. To be fair, you don't have much money anymore." She laughed. "True. But I have you. And a business I built myself. And for the first time in my life, I'm actually happy." That night, in our modest condo with its IKEA furniture and its view of a parking lot, we ordered pizza and watched a movie and fell asleep on the couch tangled together. It wasn't the life we'd planned when we got married 9 years ago. It was better. 3 months later, Robert was released from the hospital with strict orders to reduce stress. He retired from the firm, naming a partner as his successor. He and Patricia moved to their house in Martha's Vineyard. And slowly, carefully, he and Victoria started rebuilding something that looked like a relationship. It would never be perfect. Robert would never stop being controlling, and Victoria would never stop bristling at his attempts. But they talked. They had dinners. They learned to exist in the same room without warfare. As for me and Victoria, we made it work. We had hard conversations about trust and honesty. We went to therapy. We established rules about communication and transparency. We learned that marriage isn't about never having problems. It's about deciding that the person you're with is worth solving those problems for. 2 years after the confrontation, Meridian Capital had grown into one of Boston's most respected boutique investment firms. Victoria had 15 companies in her portfolio and had just been featured in Forbes. We'd moved into a house we loved in Somerville, not as grand as the Brookshire mansion, but it was ours. I was in my home office when Victoria appeared in the doorway, holding her phone. "Marcus? I need to tell you something." My heart seized. Even after everything, those words still triggered my old fears. "What's wrong?" She smiled. "Nothing's wrong. But Derek called. Tony, the private investigator. He just got caught trying to hack into some company's files. He's being charged with multiple counts of fraud." Jesus. Yeah. Apparently he's been running scams for years, fabricating evidence, setting up innocent people, blackmailing clients. She crossed the room. "The things I needed to tell you is that the IP address tracking that supposedly proved you stole from Meridian? Tony had access to all of our information. He could have done it." I stared at her. "You think Tony stole the money?" "I think my father paid Tony to steal the money and frame you. Tony had the skills. Dad had the motive and the cash." She sat beside me. "We'll never prove it. But I wanted you to know I believe it. You were set up by two men who underestimated what we do to protect each other." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I also need to tell you I'm pregnant." The world stopped. "You're 12 weeks. I wanted to wait until after the first trimester to tell you." Her eyes were shining. "We're having a baby, Marcus." I pulled her into my arms, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, pure, uncomplicated joy. "Are you happy?" she whispered. "I'm terrified and ecstatic and completely overwhelmed," I said honestly. "So yeah, I'm happy." That night we lay in bed making plans. Names and nurseries and parental leave and all the mundane, magical details of a life we were building together. "Marcus," Victoria said in the darkness. "Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. On us. Thank you for being worth not giving up on." She laughed softly. "We're so cheesy. The cheesiest." But as I drifted off to sleep, I thought about the journey we'd taken. The suspicions and lies, the betrayals and revelations, the confrontation and aftermath. And I realized something. My wife hadn't betrayed me with another man. She'd betrayed me by not trusting me enough to tell me the truth about her dreams, her fears, her plans. And I'd betrayed her by not trusting that love could survive hard conversations. We'd both learned better. The week I'd left, the week she'd smirked and said, "Go ahead, leave," thinking I wouldn't last 7 days without her. That week had actually saved us, because it forced us both to confront what we really wanted. And what we wanted was each other, but a better version of us. One built on honesty instead of assumptions, on trust instead of surveillance, on partnership instead of independence. 7 months later, our daughter was born. We named her Eleanor, after Victoria's grandmother. Robert held her with tears in his eyes and told Victoria she looked just like her mother. Patricia knitted tiny sweaters and moved back to Boston to be near her granddaughter. And me? I held my daughter and my wife and thought about all the ways I'd almost lost them both through suspicion and fear. I thought about private investigators and empty houses and manila envelopes full of photos that told a story that wasn't true. Life isn't a thriller with clear villains and heroes. It's messier than that. People make mistakes out of love and fear and pride. They lie to protect themselves and hurt the people they're trying to protect. They betray and forgive and rebuild. My wife didn't cheat on me, but our marriage almost died anyway, killed by the 1,000 small betrayals we committed against each other every time we chose silence over honesty, suspicion over trust. In the end, the question wasn't whether Victoria would betray me. It was whether we'd betray ourselves by giving up on something worth fighting for. We chose to fight, and that, it turns out, makes all the difference.